Greetings. Today I'm going to talk about the concept of obligation. Obligation, to me, either means it's something that you should be doing for others because, well, you should be doing it, or it's looking at something and trying to determine if you should be obligated to do it. I'm going to make some distinctions here on the topic of obligation because I'll tell you the truth. I have said that my biggest morality thing is loyalty, and I stick by that. But I will say that loyalty, when you're looking at obligation, can be a totally different thing. Some people might think, well, I'm obligated for this and this and this and this, and you know what? You shouldn't always have to be. So I'm going to take this in order. So let's talk about family members. Do you have to be obligated to your family members? Well, let's see who we're talking about. Should you be obligated to your parents? I will say 90% yes. And the reason I only give 90% is because I think that most parents are probably doing the best they can in raising their kids, taking care of their kids, dressing their kids, taking them to school when they need to, taking them to bowling league, which my dad did for an entire year. Flying around the country with them for different things. That happens. But there are some bad parents. There are some parents who beat their kids for no reason whatsoever. They call it love, but it's not. You have some parents who don't care what their kids wear, don't care what they eat, don't care if they eat, don't care about trying to protect them whatsoever. So do you owe loyalty to those folks just because they've given you a place where you can sleep and stay dry? In my opinion, no. You have to pretty much understand that maybe you're obligated to stay or act a certain way while you're still in their house, but the sooner you can get out, you go. And if you never talk to them again, that's on them. That may sound harsh, but that's my feeling. I do not necessarily believe in the concept of forgiveness if it's not earned. That's my take on it. And as far as other family members, I think it depends on how often you've seen them, how close you might be to them, what they may have done for you, how you may have interacted with them. I don't necessarily see myself as obligated to all of my family members, probably most of them, because I really don't know them that well. I have a couple who I feel obligated to if they ever need anything, and it doesn't involve me right now getting on a plane and having to go a long distance to do something. I'll do what I can. But the rest of them, unless I get to a point where I have some kind of real relationship with them, probably ain't going to happen. Obligation to close friends. Now, I have to say, close friends. I've got a couple of friends who I've known for over 20 years. Actually, I've got a few others who I've known for a good long time. And there's things that we have done for each other over the decades. And these are people who I would consider part of my real family. They're not, by blood, but they're family. They've done some amazing things for me. I've tried to do some amazing things for them when it's needed. And I think that that is a group of people where you are pretty much obligated. And it shouldn't feel like an obligation, but you might as well call it what it is. So if they invite you to a party at their place, and there's no one who's going to be there who's really going to mess you up, you should go. Doesn't matter if you're an introvert or not. I'm kind of introverted for a lot of those kinds of things. But when it comes to something like that, I'm going. If they need me to help, take them to the airport or do some other things, and I'm not going to hurt myself, I'm there. So I think that there are those terms. But then you have some other friends where maybe it's just that step below, or maybe it's other steps below. And I don't think you're necessarily obligated to any of those folks. So if those are the folks who you only hear from every once in a while where they're doing a charity and they want you to donate to it, but you never talk to them at any other time, you don't owe them anything. If they may need a quick loan for something, you don't owe them anything. Because I hate to say this, but it's sometimes true. Probably 95% of the people you loan money to, if they're not close friends, you're never getting that money back. And you may never hear back from them because they're going to be ashamed that either they have not been able to pay you back, or they never had any intention. And maybe they thank you at the time you give them money, but you don't hear back from them. I've had that happen a lot over the years. So, that's my thought on it. You're not obligated for anything like that. But close friends, if I've got some and it's not going to hurt me, I'm going to do it. Now, what about people who share love to you? Oh my goodness. When Mom got sick last year, and it was basically just me here in the house. I'd had the shoulder surgery. There was nothing I could do for her really. And I kind of reached out, and I had a lot of people on social media, mainly Facebook, who said a whole bunch of nice things to me. And I've had a lot of support, after I got Mom out of the nursing home, after I had to break her out of there. And then when she passed away, and over basically the time since she has, I've had a lot of people who have said a lot of nice things to me, trying to help me get, feel better, because, it's an emotional roller coaster. We all kind of handle that a little differently, but my goodness, Mom was with me for a whole bunch of years, and I was taking care of her, doing whatever I could. And it turns out that now I know other people who are going through those same types of things. They're not local, but what I'm doing is I'm offering my bit of advice on different things because they're going through some of the stuff that I went through previously. And I think that you owe that. You don't even have to necessarily be super close to those folks, but I think it's the right thing to do. Are you obligated to do it? If you have some knowledge and you can help someone else in a situation like that, I think so. I think that if someone had cancer and they were able to get out of it, and then they hear about someone else, but that person had offered, their support for you and hoped that you got there, what does it cost you to thank them for that? And what does it cost you to help give that kind of information back to someone else? They might not make it, but it doesn't hurt to offer them something. I'm part of this diabetic group on Facebook. Okay, I set it up. But I share stuff all the time, type 2 diabetes, because that's my way of trying to give back. Because way back in 1997 when I was diagnosed, there weren't a ton of people, because diabetes was always one of those kind of things where a lot of people didn't want to talk about, and a lot of people didn't want to know they had it until they ended up in the hospital for some reason. So, I put that out there. That's me trying to give back. But at the time, I gave as much love back to anyone I could when it was talking about diabetes. So let's talk about the next thing, which is the people that maybe you can help. I kind of merged that in with the love thing, but truthfully, I did a couple of videos. I did one big video when I was 60 years old. God, what is that? Well, it was probably about 2.5 years ago. I had seen a video where this kid was talking about wanting to commit suicide, and it was on someone else's channel, and I said, oh no, but we got to change this up. So I did a video, and it was basically a video for this kid saying reasons why you shouldn't want to commit suicide. And it was just me. I didn't know who he was. I think he was like 17 years old. And like I said, I knew the guy whose channel it was on. And so I sent him a message and I said, can you get it to this kid? Because I don't know how to reach him. And he reached the kid, and the kid came to me, and he came to the site, watched the video. He says, wow, you didn't even know me, and you came out and you tried to help me with this. And I'm thankful for that. Now, I never heard from him again. I certainly hope that he didn't try to commit suicide. I hope he went and found someone local that he could talk to, or found some friends he could talk to. But I just felt like that was the thing I needed to do. Now, there are those other times where when I was younger, and I'm not going to even say as a little kid, I mean, in my late 20s, early 30s, I was the guy, I would go out to the club, and it was just me. Didn't have a girlfriend at the time, but I liked to go out to the club. I used to like to hear the music. And I had my group of people. And by that, I meant I stood in the same place all the time, and I talked to these same folks, and they became my folks. If any of them was ever in any trouble whatsoever and I saw it, I went there. And I stood in front of them, and I rebuffed everyone else. I never had to hit anyone. I didn't even think about having to hit anyone because, I dared I doubted anyone was really ever going to hit me, but I was there. And the whole thing about that is that the bouncers all knew who I was. So if they saw me going somewhere and then standing in front of somebody while looking at someone else, they would come. And they always took my side because I got to know them really well. So I had that, but then there were other situations where I had folks tell me, don't get involved in that because they're not going to see it as you helping. That's one of those situations sometimes where you go to try to help someone, and even though they need it, they're not going to take it, at least publicly, because they're either scared of the other person or that's just the way their relationship is. So you have to be dicey with that one. Now, we're going to move on to employees. People you work with, people you work for, people who maybe work for you. You owe obligation to all your employees. It doesn't matter how they are, you owe obligation to them. Now, if they're not following the rules, if they're not keeping up with the tasks that you have them doing and you're being fair about it and other people are able to do it, then, your obligation comes to the organization. If it's your business, it definitely comes to the business. But in general, it's your obligation to make sure everyone is trained properly, to make sure that everyone feels free to come and ask you for advice, to basically let everybody know exactly what their job is. And you don't just wait till once a year and then do an evaluation on them. It's kind of a constant process. And you owe that to them. You owe to them to be the best leader you can. But you also owe that if you're an employee. Folks will say, well, I'm only making this much money an hour. Well, you try to find another job, or you try to learn something from that job, and then hopefully you'll get promoted and make more money. That's how I started. I mean, the first job I had in healthcare, I was getting paid $3.95 an hour. And it was back in 1983. And that was a raise from a job that I had. And the thing is, by I think 8 or 9 months later, I was making $1.50 more an hour. And it just kept going up because I just said, I'm going to get into this thing and I'm going to learn it. You owe that. Next, I'm going to talk about the obligations to the community, the country, and the world. I hate saying this. You don't owe almost any of those people anything. You just don't. Now, I'm saying that, but truthfully, there may be those times where you are probably one of the few people who might be able to say something or do something or help with something that's going to help someone in the community. I have volunteered on a bunch of different boards and tried to help out. It's been a bunch of years. The last time I was on one of those boards where I was actually the president of the group was 2015. And, at that point I said, I've done a lot. I've done the best I could. As far as the country goes, especially in today's world, I have no obligation. There's nothing I could really do. Even if I was a billionaire, there's nothing I can do. Now, I can put out my videos, even my ethics, talking about things like obligation, whatever. I can talk about racism. I can talk about, a whole lot of things that I believe people should be doing for everyone else, or, trying to do. But I have no real authority. I don't know if anyone's going to listen to it. That's the only obligation I think I have for that. As far as obligation to the world, can't make any changes there either. I don't really put anyone down that I can think of. Maybe I do, but I'm talking about that I can think of based on certain things. I really don't know much about the rest of the world. I mean, I lived in Japan for 3 years, and probably that's the only thing I know anything about. I find myself having to look up places all the time because I have no idea where it is. And then I'm almost always amazed when I find out where it really is. I said, really? That's where that is? So, I'm the wrong guy. But, your community and stuff. Now, my community, I have done some things. I did a cancer walk. In fact, I've done quite a few cancer walks. It's been a while, but I've done those. I'm not a runner. I've donated things. I've bought, like the t-shirts, helping certain things. I do that. Like I said, it's probably been a while, but I bought that stuff. I helped in my own way. I've never gone to the golf course to help because Mitchell doesn't like golf. So that's not going to help. So I think that that's one of those other things. You know, if you feel compelled to help your community by running for office, you know what? You do you. But it's not really an obligation that you have to do. And here's the last one. And this is just a little personal thing for me. I'm a blogger. I write a lot of blogs. I've written a ton of articles over all these years. And I've gone to other blogs. And I have left comments on those things. And I'm of the opinion that if someone comes to you in some way, whether it's a YouTube video or it's a blog or whatever, and they leave a comment in your space that's a good comment, that's not something that just says nice job or I liked this, because to me that's mess. No, we don't count that. But if they left a nice cogent description or comment, you owe them something. You owe them a good thank you, you know, maybe a line or two here and there. If you've got tons of people, that's a different story. I don't have that. I used to have that, but I don't have that anymore. It's hard sometimes to keep up with everything like that. But I'm of the opinion that, you know, there are those obligations that sometimes you just should do because it's the right thing to do. That's my thought. Now, I'm going to share this video that I did 9 years ago at the end because I can't believe that I've gone all these years and this is only the second time I've talked about the concept of obligation. But like I said, I think obligation is a moral code, and I'd like to know what y'all's opinion of it is. But you're not obligated to comment. I'd like you to, but there you go. Anyway, my name is Mitch Mitchell. I'll see y'all next time.